Good Monday afternoon, and thank you for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Breaking this afternoon, the Vikings could be without their starting QB J.J. McCarthy next week. According to Adam Schefter, McCarthy reported concussion symptoms to head coach Kevin O'Connell on the flight home from Green Bay last night. The Vikings had an abysmal game, scoring just 2 field goals in the first half and ending with just 145 yards overall. The Vikings are on the road next Sunday against Seattle. Just in this afternoon, a federal judge tossing out the criminal cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. This comes as the judge ruled that the prosecutor who brought those charges was illegally appointed. Comey was indicted back in September on the accusation of making false statements to Congress, while James was indicted on charges of bank fraud. Both pleaded not guilty, calling the charges politically motivated. The prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, a close Trump ally, pursued those charges at the president's urging, despite having no previous prosecutorial experience. And that after no career prosecutors agreed to sign on to the case. The ruling comes as a significant setback to the Trump administration amidst the efforts to target political opponents. Halligan is the latest Trump administration's prosecutor to be disqualified due to the manner of appointment. A rally and press conference happening today after President Donald Trump threatened to end Somali protection status here in Minnesota. President Trump made the announcement on Truth Social late Friday night, accusing Minnesota of being a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity and alleging that Somali gangs are terrorizing people in the state. Temporary protected status allows Somali nationals to live and work in the U.S. without fear of deportation. According to a congressional report, there are 705 Somalis in the country with TPS. KARE Minnesota says 400 are here in the North Star State. Now, if there is some confusion, I should say, over where things stand. The president said that TPS status was gone effective immediately in his post, but Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said this at MSP yesterday.
We plan to follow the process that's in law to evaluate TPS and how it applies to different countries and individuals from then. It was never meant to be an asylum program. It was always meant to be put in place after an incident or an event on a temporary basis, and that's what the evaluation will be.
TPS began in 1991 for Somalis due to civil war in that country. It has continued all these years later because of ongoing conflict with terror groups like Al-Shabaab and humanitarian issues like disease and famine. In the last 24 hours, people from all backgrounds packed into Minneapolis's Carmel Mall to show support for Somalis.
We support each other.
Yes.
We help each other.
Yes.
We unite for each other.
Yes.
Nothing can divide us.
That's right.
This afternoon, the search for a Wisconsin woman convicted in the Slender Man stabbing case is over. She's been found and is now awaiting extradition to Wisconsin. Madison police say Morgan Geyser cut off her ankle monitor and left her group home Saturday night. But late last night, authorities located her in Illinois, sleeping outside of a truck stop. Geyser and another girl stabbed their classmate in 2014, nearly killing her to appease a fictional character known as Slender Man. She was then sentenced to a maximum of 40 years in a mental hospital. However, in January, a judge ruled she could be released from that hospital and moved to a group home.
But we do have individuals living in group homes in our community that are on bracelets, that are monitored by DOC, and not all of them are going to have a large community-wide notification. But certainly once we realized she was missing, we wanted the community to be aware as soon as possible.
Geyser is now expected to face additional charges for cutting off her bracelet and fleeing from the group home. Today, U.S. and Ukrainian officials say they are taking substantial steps toward a ceasefire. However, new social media posts from President Trump are adding fresh tensions. Amid fast-paced, high-stakes talks between the U.S. and Ukraine in Geneva, President Trump publicly accused Kyiv's leaders of showing zero gratitude for U.S. support. It comes as Trump's administration is urging Ukraine to accept a 28-point peace plan by Thanksgiving, despite concerns that it heavily favors Russia. NBC's Richard Engel reports now from Geneva.
We are now in Geneva, a city that has long been synonymous with diplomacy, and negotiations are underway here, in theory, to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, which began nearly 4 years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine. President Trump wants the Ukrainian side, specifically President Zelensky, to accept the terms of a 28-point plan, and he wants Ukraine to agree to those terms by Thanksgiving. That's why these talks are underway. There are no Russian officials here. They're not a part of this process. This is between the American side and the Ukrainian side. And President Trump is piling pressure on Ukraine once again, saying that Zelensky's not being appreciative, that if Ukraine doesn't accept these terms, then Zelensky can, quote, fight his little heart out for as long as the war continues. And critics and many Ukrainians say that these terms favor Russia, that they are effectively the same terms that President Vladimir Putin has been asking for quite some time now. And according to this 28-point plan, Ukraine would have to give up territory in the east, limit the size of its armed forces, remain neutral in all future security arrangements. The Europeans have put forward their own peace plan, which is reportedly more favorable to Ukraine. Richard Engel, NBC News, Geneva, Switzerland.
Developing right now, a Plymouth family is suing the makers of the recalled ByHeart baby formula, accusing the company of causing their 3-month-old daughter to get infant botulism. In the lawsuit, the parents say they chose ByHeart, believing it was the most nutritious formula available based on its advertising. But they say their child was unable to eat and became lethargic after having it. The court documents say the baby suffered facial paralysis and had to eat from a feeding tube while in intensive care. 31 infants have suspected or confirmed cases of infant botulism after exposure to that formula. The Thanksgiving travel rush started today, and this year it will be even busier than ever. AAA predicts nearly 82 million people will travel at least 50 miles from home. That's 1.6 million more travelers than last year. But air travel is already off to a rocky start, with some airports issuing ground delays as a major storm system sweeps across the U.S. NBC's Ryan Chandler has more.
Well, it's been a rough start for a potentially record-breaking holiday travel rush. Here in Dallas, the FAA already implementing a ground delay amid some severe weather. More than 100 flights between the two major airports here already delayed or canceled. Treat that as a bellwether of things to come. As this storm system sweeps east, it could implicate other major travel hubs as millions of Americans try to hit the roads. Today, it's Dallas, Little Rock, Houston, Memphis. Tomorrow into Wednesday, as people really start to pick up their travel, we could see similar delays at places like Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta, even up to New York and D.C. So the travel experts say, as always, leave early, plan alternate travel routes. Interestingly, 90% of Americans who say they're traveling this week are foregoing this altogether. They're hitting the roads. The highways are also going to be busier than usual, later in the day than usual. So the rule of thumb, as we all try to get home safe and sane for Thanksgiving dinner, is to make alternate plans and leave early. In Dallas, I'm Ryan Chandler. Back to you.
By this time next week, hundreds of thousands of people will have passed through TSA for Thanksgiving travel. The agency shared some reminders before you take off. It's recommended to arrive 2 hours early for domestic flights and 3 hours early for international flights. Remember to pack smartly and research ahead what items can go in your check-in bag or your carry-on bag. That information, by the way, is available on TSA.gov. TSA spokesperson Jessica Maley also shared some Thanksgiving-specific travel reminders.
Just when we think about liquids, I think we all think about shampoo, toothpaste, but spill it, spread it, spray it, pump it, or pour it. Those are what our liquid categories are. So when we're talking about baked goods, stuffing, toppings for your green bean casserole, the whole turkey, if you were traveling with that, if it was frozen, that would be fine. All of these are good for your carry-on bags. But when we're getting into some of these more soft liquid things, the cranberry sauce, the gravy, pumpkin pie filling, if you use this to make a whole pie, that's okay. If you're just bringing the spreadable filling, that would need to go in your check bag. And then liquids as well. So if you're bringing wine or cider or anything like that, over 3.4 ounces, that would need to go in your check baggage.
Portland Trailblazers and NBA Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups appearing in court today on illegal gambling charges. Billups pleaded not guilty to money laundering, conspiracy, and wire fraud charges stemming from rigged poker games. If found guilty, he's likely to face up to 40 years in prison. Billups is among more than 30 people who were charged in last month's federal takedown of illegal gambling linked to professional sports. Right now, the music world is hurting. Reggae legend Jimmy Cliff has died at the age of 81. Cliff, perhaps best known for his song The Harder They Come, helped make the reggae genre popular. His wife Latifah announcing his death on Instagram today, saying her husband passed away due to a seizure followed by pneumonia. In addition to The Harder They Come, Cliff was also known for hits like You Can Get It If You Really Want and Wonderful World, Beautiful People. Cliff was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2010. He is the only Jamaican aside from Bob Marley to ever achieve that honor. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.